Good evening, Canada and the rest of the world. Live from Bauhaus Studios in beautiful downtown Port Credit, it's the Tom and Rick Show for Wednesday, September 30th. Tonight's guests are Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie, two-time Juno Award winner Jack DeKaiser, Ward 1 Councillor Stephen Dasco, singer, songwriter, and public speaker Peter Katz. And joining us tonight for Eating Port Credit from Shore Grill and Grotto, Maureen and Satis. Also tonight, Cooking with Carson and Undercover of the Night. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Tom and Rick.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Very excited about our next guest.
So excited.
Maybe even a little bit nervous, Rick. I don't know.
I had a couple of, a little beer, perhaps beer. Right. Yes, I'm good.
Well, we are ready to have a discussion with the mayor of Mississauga, Bonnie Crombie. Welcome to the show, Bonnie.
Thanks very much. I'm practicing my COVID prevention.
Yes.
And I heard that you had some liquid courage, Rick.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Now, I'd like to start very broadly in that, when you became mayor, I think 2014?
First time, yes.
You were going to have to think about traffic, crime, community relations, poverty, all of these things that mayors around the world take care of. Now suddenly you have to be in charge of
a global pandemic.
Global pandemic and people, literally people's lives.
Lives are at stake, right?
So how can you take us through that moment where you're like, wow, this is real, it's here, real. And I have to be a strong leader.
Oh, thank you. So, of course, I just have a lot of empathy and compassion. And, we thought at first we could be saved. Canada would persevere, and that was for those other places, but not us, because, we'll do the right thing here. And at first we thought it was just a new flu that was coming throughout the world. But then we realized how serious it was. When you compare it to SARS, by example, SARS is much more difficult to contract, but it's much more dangerous. The mortality rates for SARS was much higher. COVID-19, the new coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, much easier to get, but the symptoms can be mild or you can be asymptomatic. It's people with compromised immune systems or the elderly we have to worry about. So, of course we took it very seriously. When we did de facto lockdown the day before St. Patrick's Day, because that's when it occurred to us people would be out mixing and mingling, and that could become very problematic. The risk of transmission would be much higher. So it was mid-March we went through lockdown, and we realized the severity of this virus. Before we thought, it's a new flu, but then we saw what was happening abroad in China, then in Europe, in Italy, and then Spain, and we started to take things very seriously. And I'm very proud of the measures we had put in place. We closed the borders fairly quickly. We locked down and said, okay, everybody only go to work. If you have to, please work from home, only go out once a week, contain yourself to your immediate family, a very small, now we use the word bubble, maintain a safe, first it was social distance, and then we realized physical distance is necessary, 6 feet, 2 meters, wash your hands often, right? And then we watched the examples of other communities, other countries, and we saw that those that imposed mandatory face coverings were faring much better. So we, in the past 6 months, we've learned a lot about the virus, how it moves, that we carry it, and how to protect ourselves from it. So we call them the COVID-4, right? Wear your face covering, keep that safe physical distance from other people, wash your hands off and don't touch your face, and only stay in your immediate small bubble, your small circle of immediate family and friends.
And things are evolving so quickly.
That's right.
Rick and I, as musicians, it was a slow opening. Then there was smaller gigs. Then we had the patios open up so we could play outside. And now with the numbers going the other way, there's so much anxiety that comes with change and not knowing. So what would be your advice to the business owners, musicians, people who are, how are we going to handle this next phase?
So we were so excited when we came into phase 3, and don't forget that I was asking for a regional approach, because the numbers in Peel, the numbers in Toronto, the large urban centers, our numbers were much greater than right across the province of Ontario. We have 28 public health units. 21 of them didn't have any COVID cases. but the 7 of us were accounting for all the numbers. So, you know, we asked for a delay in the reopenings. We wanted to be sure, we wanted to be certain it was the right time, that we could manage it. And then we got to phase 3 and there was a big relief. Like, we could actually get through this, folks. And the businesses opened. And then we're, as a politician, as a leader in this community, I've been holding my breath, watching, and now I'm watching the numbers rise. And we always knew with phase 3, there was a greater risk of transmission as people gather, as people meet in the street and retail establishments and restaurants and bars, pubs and lounges, as the kids go back to school, as more people are back at work, more people are taking public transit. Of course, the numbers were going to increase. Can we keep it manageable? Can we keep them out of the healthcare system? Can we keep them out of the hospitals? So this is what we've been watching. So my advice to everyone, first, let's take a look at the transmission. How is it being transmitted and where? So I have to be honest, 88% of the transmission is occurring in the community. We call it community transmission, or in households, close household contact. You will bring it home and infect everyone in your household. Workplace is less so, but there's a little bit of overlap between community transmission and workplace, because if you pick it up in the community, you're going to take it home and work. So you see that those numbers account for 88% of all transmissions. And then we look at who is transmitting it. We see that 70% of transmissions are from people under 39, 60% under 29. So it's the millennials, you know, and there was COVID fatigue. The weather got nice.
Right.
The weather got nice and people said, enough, we want to see my friends. I want to go out. Let's go down to Port Credit and let's go hear the bands play and the music play and see our friends. Right. And they also know, should they contract COVID, they may have a mild case. They may not even know they have it, because most of transmission is among asymptomatic people who don't know they have the virus. They don't have any symptoms, but they're spreading it.
You have to wear a mask, and you have to follow the protocol.
So follow the protocol, practice the core 4, as we call them, and to the establishments. So the rules are on on all businesses, maximum capacity of 100 people, and in retail they know the rules, 1 person per every 4 meters. And if you're in a restaurant, a bar, or a lounge, you have to stay seated. There's no mingling among tables, no dancing, no karaoke, and a maximum of 10 people, because it's 10 people in your bubble, right? 10 people at one table. So the tickets that we have issued have been because they've been over capacity, over 100, some are 150, closer to 200, and more than 10 at a table. I mean, 25 at a table is not according to rules. So they're going to get fined. And then there was the odd, you know, missing signage. Some of the staff didn't have their face covering on properly, covering their nose and their chins. So those are the kinds of things our bylaw enforcement looks for. They had done a sweep of the city. My approach had always been educate and inform. Let's not be unnecessarily punitive. Let's not fine people. These are people who have been suffering during the pandemic. They're just getting their businesses open. Please, let's not fine people.
With a whole new set of rules.
Let's educate them. And the rules are changing, and they change quickly.
And they have to change it. And I'm sure
and
that they're
on
doing
private property. Private property, the rules changed again last week. Now you can only have 10 people inside and 25 people outside.
Now, one of the things I find very interesting is this is not the new problem. This is a problem on top of all the other issues that we're talking about.
That's right.
In fact, some of those issues have been exacerbated under this. So now it's not like, well, poverty is not as important in Mississauga because we're talking about this. Poverty,
homelessness, poverty,
there
food insecurity.
All of these things. So this is why I'm excited about talking about your new food drive initiative, because I understand people are being bombarded with news and numbers and all that stuff, but our people in need are more in need than ever. So can you talk a little bit about this new initiative?
Well, absolutely. Thank you. So this is the 6th annual Mayor's Food Drive for the Mississauga Food Bank. And this year, more than ever, we see an acute need in our community. There's 138% increase in use of food banks in Mississauga. And think about that for a moment. You know, 2.7 million meals last week, 28,000 people accessed a food bank, 8 unique people, 8,000 of them were new. So if you can imagine, there is such a need in our community. And now that we're approaching Thanksgiving, it is a time to be thankful, to be grateful, and to reflect and give thanks. For those of us who can, we should give back. And those of us who can't, you know, we need to take care of those people. our more vulnerable neighbors. We want to ensure they and their children are fed. So we're asking people to be generous if they can, right? So I have this annual Mayor's Food Drive, and we have goals, we have targets like everything else. There's a couple of components to it. So we are trying to raise $250,000 and 170,000 pounds of food, and people have right through the season just after Thanksgiving till October 18th to get the food in, because of course you can't cut it off right on Thanksgiving. My counselors are all in competition. The one who the ward brings in the most food get the Angel Trophy, and they all compete for it. It gets moved around. So Ron Starr has had it, Matt Mahoney's, Carolyn Parrish, Pat Sato. People, it moves around every year. I'm very proud of that. And we just ask people to drop off non-perishable food to either the Mississauga Food Bank or the local grocery store collecting, or of course one of the fire stations, and the firefighters will be happily to take it. And there's another component of that as well, and it's the Mayor's Challenge. So the social challenge. So what I'm asking you to do is when you drop off your bag of groceries, take a picture of yourself doing it. I mean, everybody's on social media.
Yeah,
no matter if you're on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat, whatever it is, take a picture of yourself, post it on your favorite vehicle, favorite social media, whatever it is you use. Most people do it on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, and challenge 5 of your friends. Say, hey, I dropped my food off at the Mississauga Food Bank to help our hungry neighbors. I challenge you and you and you and you.
And
5
what's the
people.
hashtag for that?
The mayor, I think it's the Mayor's Food, the Mayor's, we'll get it for you, the challenge. Mayor's
You know what,
Food Bank Challenge.
we'll get it.
We'll post it up.
But the Mayor's Food Bank
Challenge.
.com, that's where you can get the information for
So,
that.
and
right?
if people are more comfortable just making a financial donation, if they can, I understand there's still a lot of people out of work and hurting, and we know that the CERB is over now, and we're shifting back to employment insurance, and people are nervous, and rents are due. So if you can't, you can't. But for those of you who can, want to help your hungry neighbors, please, you can give at themississaugafoodbank.org.
Okay, we'll put that link up.
Very easy.
Our viewers are very generous, so
They are.
we'll try to make, you know, as much as we can, make that happen.
Please do that challenge. Do that challenge and drop off some food.
We should do that tomorrow.
Yeah, and take a picture and challenge 5. Like there's a bunch of challenges on the internet all the time. Let's make this one a priority.
Yeah, let's do that tomorrow, Rick. And one question that's always fascinating.
Time sensitive, right? You only got till the 18th. So let's do this one this week, and then we'll change challenges next week.
I'm interested in the process. So you're the mayor of one of the biggest cities in Canada.
6th largest.
6th largest city in Canada.
3rd in Ontario, Toronto, Ottawa, Mississauga. And we're growing up, as you
guys,
see.
are you talking daily? Are you talking weekly? When it's time to, you know, okay, we're changing the law. How do you guys connect and have these discussions?
That's an excellent question. It's a very good one, because it's so important that we coordinate and we act in uniform, particularly in the GTHA, right? If Mississauga shuts things down and Toronto doesn't, guess what happens? Everybody goes there.
Yeah.
You know, if you recall, even the parking lots to the parks were closed, and we were talking about the overflow here in Port Credit. Should we open up the parking lots? Well, no, then everybody would come here. So we have to coordinate. We have to do things uniformly.
Yeah.
So first of all, the GTHA mayors, we speak every Monday at noon. Every Monday.
Okay.
And John Tory convenes that group, and we all have our input. You know, what have you seen? Are people taking it seriously? What's the compliance rates like? You know, what are the tickets? How many tickets have you issued, and for what for? Where should we be looking? So we try to coordinate that. When we, you know, started opening things up, we wanted to do that consistently and uniformly as well. So we do try to act together, and that's very important. It's also very important for other orders of government, provincial, federal, to hear us speak with one voice. Otherwise, if they have too many different asks from too many different mayors in different communities, it's confusing, right? So we distill things down to what are the top 3 that we all have in common? So every time we see someone, it's, you know, it used to be our issues were transit, infrastructure, and housing affordability, or whatever they are. They change, but those are usually, it's infrastructure, transit, transportation, and housing affordability, whatever. So we try to distill it down to what's common for everyone and speak with one voice. So in the beginning of the crisis, the big city mayors of Canada, and there are 23 of us, we were meeting bi-weekly, and we were meeting with ministers. Like Chrystia Freeland took the call often. Catherine McKenna was on the calls. Ahmed Hussein, the big ones, housing, transportation, social services were speaking with us, and we were conveying what we were seeing and what our needs were. And at the time, don't forget, we were all, we had no revenue. We had deferred all our property taxes, deferred payments, interest, everything. We were forgiving our rent in our public buildings, and we had no income. Transit was de facto, it was free. We were running free transit, so we had no revenue. So we were all speaking to them about our operating deficits. And in Mississauga's case, we had a $107 million deficit. We're not, by the way, we're not permitted to run a deficit. By law, we don't have deficits in cities. We ended up laying off 2,000 people. We undertook a whole bunch of measures to ensure that our costs were contained and we could eliminate whatever we didn't need to spend. And so we reduced our deficit by $47 million. So we ended up with $60 million. It's still considerable, but they listened. And they did send us money for our operating deficits. So we got Mississauga, we have 46 million, 31 for my transit, and another 15 for my operating deficit. But we'll see what happens if we go into a second wave. That might continue, right?
Hopefully not.
We're back to collecting revenue, back to collecting fares in our on transit, in our rec centers, etc. So we were just starting. People were having to write their property tax checks now for October. So we'll see what happens. So the big city mayors were speaking with one voice. The GTHA mayors were speaking with one voice, and that's important because the most densely populated areas will have the same issues and will want the same conclusions and make the same recommendations. So we all asked for regional approach. You saw that GTHA Toronto, Mississauga Brampton, Ottawa, Windsor, we asked to be delayed to go into stage 2 and phase 3 as well. Just by a couple of weeks, but let us catch up. You know, it takes a little longer. We have more people, more opportunity, more higher risk of transmission. So that was very successful. And then there are also a group called the Ontario Big City Mayors. And we haven't met as often because we're all captured in, you know, all of us here are in the GTHA mayors and the bigger ones are in the big city mayors. But we've been meeting about once a month as well. I've got a meeting with them on Tuesday.
Well, one of the things I find, if there's positives to find, there's always positives, is that political affiliation seems to have become less toxic.
Correct.
So you have a mayor that, a premier that many people considered, you know, too right-wing, and they were against him just on principle. And you had all these people from the different political spectrum, and it's very refreshing to see people communicating. You know, the premier is complimentary to the prime minister. How has it been to say, hey, you know what? We don't have to be so antagonistic all the time.
I will say there has also been an unprecedented amount of collaboration with the federal government, with the provincial government, all of us. I'm on a texting basis with the premier. He wants to hear from me. And he is on a texting basis with Chrystia Freeland and the prime minister. That is the amount of coordination and collaboration you are seeing, where we can pick up the phone or text or call and they will respond. They want to hear from us and they're acting together. And that has been, you know, one of the more positive outcomes, silver lining of this pandemic, that different levels of government are working closely together to make things happen for our residents. You know, we understand your pain. We're empathetic. We feel it too. We want to help. How can we all come together to help our residents, but together? Right.
I think it's quite inspiring. Now, I know you have a super busy schedule. Is there any message you'd like to leave with our viewers before you have to run off?
Well, just certainly, you know, we are at that turning point right now where we could manage these numbers or things could take a turn from the worse. So I'm appealing to you and to your viewers to let's be vigilant just a little while longer. Let's follow the rules, the labor guidelines, the health guidelines. Let's protect ourselves. Let's protect our families. Let's protect our loved ones. And I'm speaking particularly to the millennials, the young people who are gathering, I won't say recklessly, but in times carelessly, that will spread the virus, even if they get infected, to their loved ones who it could be fatal for an elderly person or someone with a compromised immune system. You yourself may be asymptomatic, not even aware that you have the virus, but you could pass it on to somebody who could really suffer some very severe effects, end up in the hospital being intubated and possibly much worse. So please, you know, right now, we're just entering that second wave. And throughout the course of history, there have always been a second wave of a pandemic, and it's always been worse. But that doesn't make it so. We can change the course of history. We can be on the right side of history. We can do this right, and we can do it once. So if everybody could just hold off and practice the core four and protect themselves and protect their loved ones, we don't have to enter that second wave. So
right. I think that's an amazing message to go out on. You know, many people do not vote in municipal elections. Not nearly enough people do.
Mississauga, less than a third.
So less than a third. And look, we are now lucky that we have a mayor who is able to be tough when it's time to be tough and, you know, be sensitive to what people are interested in. We need to understand the importance of municipal elections.
Thank you.
And we need to make sure that we vote in them because a pandemic could happen and this could be, you know, life-changing for you. So
that's right.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for
coming so much, Martin.
And ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Very early in the pandemic, very early in the life of the show, one of our first guests we had was Maureen from Shore, and the world was so confused at the time. We needed to have a live music venue owner here to talk to us and say, what are your plans? How are you going to do it?
She shed the light on everything in Port Credit and took the guesswork out of it.
Right.
Pretty much. She's
So
one of our first guests.
It was really great to have Maureen on to do that. As you know, we have this new segment called Eating Port Credit, where we talk about all of the dining options, or many of the dining options that we have here in our community. And we are lucky today to have the head chef from Shore, Satis, to join us for Eating Port Credit. Welcome, guys. Maureen, thanks for coming back, and thanks for coming on the show. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened with cooking? You're in a bustling restaurant, it's busy all the time, and now it's like, we're doing takeout. How was that transition, and how did you make that work? Because it ended up working really well.
Because of the flavor, right?
Right.
The flavor, and like the flavor. The people, the like of my food,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And then mostly a lot of pastas. People love that pasta.
Yes.
And then I do like a lot of asabugo, lamb shank, and homemade ravioli, right? So
I love the answer. The flavors. Obviously. Why do people keep buying the food? The flavors.
the flavor, right?
And then on the business side, Maureen, so you have a chef that people are regular customers. They come all the time. They obviously love the food, or you wouldn't be doing as well as you are. How did you manage that on the business side? This transition from the bustling restaurant to takeout.
I think we talked a lot.
Yeah.
We talked endlessly about different things, and we had to just kind of change it all up. So we did the takeout, but then we did the family meals, which turned out really well.
Those were
And
great.
then
We had a bunch of those.
and
It was
yeah,
great.
people enjoyed
Yep.
that. And we may actually look at doing that again. It was a great summer for us. So now that it's going into that colder season, I think we will go back to doing more of the family meals. You know, with the Thanksgiving kicking it off. I think on that one. But we took a look at the menu and thought, you know what? We used to have lunches, dinners, late night menus. Then we thought, well, we got to bring it all together. So easily we can now have, and it seems ridiculous, but we'll have crab legs on the weekend. We had crab legs. And they're sitting at a picnic table eating crab's legs and a beautiful bottle of Camus, and the table beside them is eating a burger and wings.
Yes.
But
I love
isn't
it. I
that the
love
great
this
thing
menu.
about your spot is it's A to Z.
Yes.
And it's all done well. And Rickford was just saying, I love the fajitas.
The fajitas.
Debbie was saying she loves
They're
the
fantastic.
pizza because you can get a gluten-free pizza. So
Yeah, and very well done. Like apparently it's hard to do a gluten-free
Yes,
crust,
yeah.
and you do it the best in Port Credit.
And
apparently.
so,
you.
like, what are you most proud of what you've done at Shore? You've been there 12 years, which is a very long stay for a head chef. What makes you go, yeah, I'm good at this?
Like seafood pasta,
Right.
right? Poplar, and then I love that too.
Right.
And lamb shank.
You keep saying lamb shank.
I know.
That's the
I
best.
keep getting hungry.
Best.
You took that off
No.
the menu.
I
He makes
know
a
about-
great curry too.
And chicken curry.
yes,
Right.
Oh,
yes.
chicken curry and basmati rice.
Yeah, fantastic.
Now,
Yeah.
now, as a cook,
cook,
you know, also, I'm supposed to say cook and
I'm
not
a
chef.
foodie,
I'm
yeah,
in
yeah.
school. You know, you work at Shore, as we all do as
Yep.
musicians sometimes. What makes you say, this is why this restaurant works?
Well,
On the food side.
there's a lot. It's consistent. It's always consistent. You know,
That
you're
is
not
true.
getting, and the staff, remember once there was an ingredient and they wouldn't serve it because they said it's not going to be the same, right?
Right.
So I like that consistency. And also, kind of the cool thing was with the delivery is it used to just be pizza. Now you can actually get like ossobuco delivered to your home. So you're seeing that differently. But yeah, a lot of great food. I just think there's a variety of menu for everyone. Whether it was like Deb was mentioning gluten-free, or my wife when she goes there, she's vegetarian. And they don't treat her like she's a pain in the neck, right?
Right.
They'll make a nice meal for her. Yeah.
I recommend the chicken parm. The chicken parm is the best chicken parm. And I don't know how you get that size of chicken. It's huge.
Chris, beat them up.
And I put it on Instagram or something, and people would come like, that is huge. Is that 2 meals? I'm like, no, sadly, I'm eating all this myself. You could order it for 2 people.
You can.
But that's my favorite.
Well, what do you guys have coming up? I know that the world is constantly in limbo, so we don't like to make big long-term plans because we don't know what the hell's happening. But what are you excited about coming up in the fall?
I think we're going to be, we're going to look at taking a bit more of a step with entertainment is always a bit of a challenge, as we all know, and coming inside. So we're going to focus a little bit more on Sundays on the football aspect. We're giving away hot dogs for half times.
Right,
I
that's
love
fun.
hot dogs. They'll probably be
that's
great
always
too.
fun. Yeah, there you go. It's a meal. And then we're going to go back to the family meals. So we're going to kick it off on Thanksgiving, doing some family meals and sorting that out. And then going back to the ones that Satisse made a great job. We did the fajitas was really popular. The stuffed sole was great. That was a good family meal.
And tandoori chicken, we do that too, right?
You did really well with that one.
Tandoori chicken.
Amazing. One of my favorites. Well, this is all great info. And where can people find you online?
At www.shoregrillandgrotto.ca.
The commercial just ran in my head.
I know.
Of course, if you watch the
Sing it.
show, you see the commercial all the time. Rickford has performed it live. Speaking of performing live, I will be at Shore 6:30 to 10:30 this Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday we have Meg and Dave from Parkside Drive. They are great.
They're great.
That is 6:30 to 10:30. And
Bring a blanket.
What's up?
Bring a blanket. It might be
Bring a
cold.
blanket.
Yeah.
Yes, it could be
There
chilly.
is lots of heaters out there, but bring a blanket,
We're Canadians. We're robust.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Maureen and Satisse on Eating Port Credit. They are from Shore. I hope you will check them out. Great food, great vibe, great entertainment.
It's
and we
a
will
Shore
be
thing.
right back. See you.
Shore Grilling Grotto, it's a Shore thing.
I originally heard the name Peter Katz when, am I pronouncing that right? Peter Katz?
Peter
Katz,
that's right.
Excellent. I originally heard of Peter as a singer-songwriter with this beautiful angelic voice, and then his story took a turn for the dramatic and the interesting. He had a very serious injury and was told by several people that he may not walk again. There were moments where it was touch and go period for you. Am I correct?
Yeah, very much.
And Peter has sort of documented this journey both in a YouTube video, which I saw, which is great, and also it seeps into his new album. And we're here to discuss this journey that Peter's been on and get a little taste of that music. So welcome to the show. Thanks very much for coming. And can we back up just your career? You've at least 10 years you've been making records. Am I correct?
Yeah, actually, my very first record was 2004. That was like kind of a university project, not necessarily knowing that it was going to turn into a career. But 2004 was the first time I put actual music out into the world.
Right, and the career goes on. You become very successful, award-winning, and you have this dramatic accident. Can you take us through that?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a backstory to the accident. So in 2013, I found out that this youth mentoring program in Alberta had been using my songs as part of their curriculum. So I played the show in Fort Macleod, Alberta. Never been there before, and I walk out on stage, and there's hundreds of people there that know all of my music. And
wow, cool.
I just started like, what happened here? And anyways, long story short, they invited me to come work for them, and it's this program where they take youth up into the mountains, go hiking, rock climbing, whitewater canoeing, but it's not really about that. It's more about facing your fear, like, supporting each other, developing empathy. It's kind of like human being 101 through these outdoor activities. And they had been using my music kind of to anchor some of the learning. And anyway, so they invited me to come work for them. I've been doing that work every summer since, except for this summer, for the last 7 years. And one of the activities that we do is we do a rappel, where you go down this 100-foot cliff and you kind of learn to manage your fears and do something that you didn't think you could do, and then you do it and it builds confidence and so on and so forth. So I was leading this rappel, and I was kind of overtired and not thinking, and all the kids had gone down and it was like lunchtime, and I was just kind of not really thinking about my own life in that moment. And I ended up using a different device than I normally used. I walked off this cliff, and I realized that I hadn't set up properly, and I basically dropped 100 feet in about 3 seconds.
Wow.
Now, there was a few things that kind of mitigated the fall. So I was still attached to a rope, but the rope was just kind of flying through this device at almost gravity speed. But I had serious burns on my hands from trying to grab the rope. But it kept me upright, and the ground was also loose gravel, so I at least landed on something a little more forgiving.
Not rock.
Right.
But I basically shattered my talus, which is kind of that kind of ball bone right in the middle of your ankle.
Oh,
And-
I was doing talus. So.
And I know, you don't need the whole medical backstory, but basically they missed that I had a fracture. I ended up going through this whole recovery process, went into the doctors. They realized that there was a fracture that they'd missed 4 months ago. It got really complicated. It looked like the bone was going to die. And I think when you go to the doctor, you're used to them being like, well, actually everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I went, they're like, actually it's worse than we thought. And they're like, okay, don't walk for 6 weeks. And that should heal it up. So I don't walk for 6 weeks. I come back. They're like, it's even worse. It's even worse. And there was just this trail of it's even worse to the point where it was like your life may never be the same again.
Right.
And, as somebody who's spent my life running around on stage, playing 150, 200 shows a year, doing this mentoring work, just being a super active person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was just those moments of whoa, this is a total paradigm shift from
What am I going to do?
Yeah, what am I going to do? Yeah.
Wow, it's so intense on so many levels. One is just your physical being.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are problems, and then there are real problems.
Yeah.
And your physical being is in no, this is a real problem.
Yeah.
But not only did you channel some of this, the emotional journey you were on, but you became a speaker on like a TED Talk style speaker.
Yeah.
And managed to say, look, I'm going to share these experiences because I think they're going to help people. And your audience became in the tens of thousands of people who have heard this story.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it all kind of dovetailed together. You kind of do these things in your life, and there's kind of a cumulative effect to them. So I went to Ryerson and I did a Bachelor of Fine Arts in theater. So I kind of learned stagecraft. And then I'm a big outdoors person, and so when this program wanted me to come work for them, I also kind of had that backstory, and then I've also played 1,500 shows on stage, so I had that experience, but then I also was a storyteller as part of my musical career. So the speaking thing actually started to emerge naturally just as this whole thing happened, where people would come to my shows and would say, hey, would you come do a keynote? Or, there'd be a teacher in the audience be like, hey, that message would be great for our students. Or there'd be a corporate person who'd be like, hey, that would be great for our people. So people had started kind of naturally asking me to do that. And then the accident happened. And then I had a lot more to talk about too.
Sure.
But the nature of the work that I do on the speaking side is it's not focused on the accident. It's not focused on any one particular thing. And I'm not up there as all of a sudden I'm a psychologist, all of a sudden I'm a business expert. It's just, what does it mean to live a life where you kind of say yes to those things that most people don't say yes to? Like, hey, I'm going to try to make a living by putting these songs I wrote in my bedroom and getting up on a stage and playing them for people. Or I'm going to say yes to this mentoring program out in the middle of the woods that's inviting me to come do this work with teenagers. I guess my life has just been a series of saying yes to these things that I don't quite understand, but they intrigue me or they kind of scare me,
right?
Which makes me think, okay, I should do that.
And it seems very interesting to me because, one of the themes that you have is change and adapting to change.
Yes.
We have to do it as musicians all the time.
100%.
We used to sell a physical product, and now there's no such thing as a physical product. So we're always changing. But now we are in a time of change per day. Change. What are the numbers? What are we going to do? What's going to open? What's going to close?
Yeah.
How did all of this end up, distilling into this new album you have?
Well, I mean, a bunch of things happened in my life. I went through like the end of a marriage. I went through obviously this accident. I went through like a huge amount of change. And when I went through all of those things, you sort of go through some of your biggest fears, and you realize, oh, I'm still alive.
Right.
And I think there's as much as those things are painful, I think if you look at those situations as, okay, this is going to hurt, but I'm going to like squeeze every bit of juice out of this lemon and let it make me grow wiser, let it make me grow stronger, then it's actually, you feel less like a leaf blowing in the wind. You're like, oh, I can do hard things, and it's not just a concept, it's a lived experience. And so when it came to making the music, the kind of music that I was falling in love with was this like more rhythmic pop music. I'd always been sort of an acoustic troubadour guy, and I never thought I had the right to make that other kind of music. But the stuff that I wanted to listen to that was kind of lifting my spirits and getting me through the challenges was stuff that was more based on the rhythm section, that had that energy and that kind of bold and courageousness to it.
Well, it does have a dance or pop element, but it's also still, to my ears, a singer-songwriter's song.
Yeah, well, to me, the sort of mandate that I had, I think pop music has this, people dismiss it sometimes because they're like, oh, well, it's just, it's because it's dancing, but it's not a good lyric, or it's not actually a good, it's kind of like, polishing something that's not that great. And my mandate...
There's another word for that.
I know, there's another word, but I didn't say it. Polishing a turd.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
I was trying to be PC, right?
Yeah.
But so my mandate was, if I'm going to make a pop record, the songs have to be still of the quality that if you heard somebody hacking it out on an acoustic guitar by the campfire, you'd still say like, oh, that's a...
Well, we're kind of about to do that, aren't we?
Well, we are, exactly.
Well, I just want to say that the album is called City of Our Lives.
Yep.
And it's going to be out in physical form October 23.
Correct.
It's going to be available for digital download November 25th.
Yeah.
We're going to have links so that people can access that, but will you share a little bit of the new album and the new experience with us?
Yeah, for sure. I'd be happy to. Yeah, so we've already put out 6 singles that are available, and I thought I'd play the song we just put out, and I think this is the acoustic version. The actual version doesn't have any acoustic guitar on it at all, but this is a song for me that is like me really doing something bold like I've never done before, and I think connected to those experiences, I felt emboldened to like do things I'd never done before, and this I think is a great example of that. Cool. So this is called KMOTM. You figure out what that means as the lyric goes by.
Get back, don't offer me some words, no. Go digging down inside your catacombs. You feel it? That's the way I wanna go. Wanna feel you when you're high and when you're low. Be as hard as you can be. Get so dark that you can't see. I can take it. Let me take it. Be as hard as you can be. Get so raw you don't believe that you ever did this. But I'll be your witness. And lay in my bed, kiss me on the mouth, stuck in my head, kick me out, hold me down, and kiss me on the mouth. Lay in my bed, kiss me on the mouth, stuck in my head, kick me out, hold me down. Kiss me on the mouth, kiss me on the mouth. and turn up so that the whole world knows. Let it wash you over deep down to your bone. And give up on everything that's holding you. Just burn it in the sand and I'll do it too. Be as hard as you can be. Get so raw you don't believe that you ever did this. But I'll be a witness. Lay in my bed, kiss me on the mouth, stuck in my head, kick me out, hold me down, and kiss me on the mouth. Lay in my bed, kiss me on the mouth, stuck in my head, kick me out, hold me down, and kiss me on the mouth, kiss me on the mouth. Kiss me on the mouth. Lay in the bed, kiss me on the mouth. Stuck in my head, kick me out, hold me down. Kiss me on the mouth. Lay in my bed, kiss me on the mouth. Stuck in my head, kick me out, hold me down. And kiss me on the mouth. Kiss me on the mouth.
Yes.
Wow, that was really,
Nice.
really great.
That was awesome.
A chill. I got a chill. The chill doesn't lie.
I got chills too.
So, absolutely fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Peter Katz. City of Our Lives is the album. Please click on the links and go and support this amazing artist and this amazing new album. Thanks again, Peter.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We will be right back. Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. And we have a cool guest right now. We were both talking about how we
Yes.
love this guitar playing.
One of my favorite blues guitar players, because people think that they're going to play blues, and it's not as easy as you think to do it well. And this man does it
It
very
is
well.
the easiest music to play badly.
Yes, it is.
Of all the musics. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a two-time Juno Award winner. He has... Winner?
Bam!
Nominees.
Not us.
Winner.
Winner.
He has won the Maple Blues Award for Lifetime Achievement, which is always odd because you're still around.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he was in a great band called the Bobcats. I used to see him as a kid at the Cameo Lounge, and I looked up and went, this is how you do this for a living. Very inspiring for me. He has recorded with Etta James, Bo Diddley, Blue Rodeo, and many others. It is our great pleasure to have Jack DeKaiser. Welcome,
Nice.
Jack, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Rick. Nice
Thank
to be
you.
here.
How are things going?
Well, you know, as well as everybody else, I guess. you know.
Right. I mean, it's a crazy time.
Crazy times.
To be
Yeah,
to be a
I'm-
musician. So, was your new album ready to get put out before COVID hit, and that changed plans, or how did that all come together?
We finished recording the bulk of it just before the lockdown, and then my wife and I went to Cuba for a little holiday, and while we were down there, we got the message that, you know, come home, they're locking the borders, everything's going crazy. I had about 50 cancellations on my phone for gigs. Came home, so then I had about 2-3 months to mix and do sweetening stuff on the album, master it. So I kept myself busy with that for the first 3 months.
And I've also followed online. You've posted some really great performances and done some cool stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, music's my kind of hobby.
Yeah. Well, it's what we do. You keep yourself busy.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I play. I study jazz. I like pop music. I like all kinds of music. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, the pop music on the radio was the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin. So, you know, that's the music that I came up with, and that's the music that turned me onto the blues.
Right, because that's where it started, I suppose.
So, yeah, I mean, they were all influenced by the blues.
Now, the new album is called Tribute.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you came to make an album of tribute.
Well, it was. It's been about 7 years since I released an all original album. I put out a couple of live albums. I put out an all cover blues album 2 years ago, and I put out a greatest hits, well, best of, about a year or two ago. So after I finished recording these songs that I'd been writing for the last 7 years, up till like, you know, a few months ago, I was still writing, obviously. I just thought the songs on it just reminded me of all the music that I grew up with. You know, there's classic rock, classic blues tunes. There's a funk song. There's a reggae song. So I just thought, yeah, it's sort of a tribute to all the music and musicians that inspired me through my.
Okay, so it's an all original project.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But it's a tribute to all of those idioms that.
Yeah, like all the styles.
Yeah. You know, it's just it's gratitude. You know, a tribute.
Right on.
Very cool. Now, as I was saying in the intro there, I used to go and see you at the Cameo Lounge.
Right.
And it was very much a rockabilly kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I loved it because one of the things I love about rock and roll is the aesthetic. You know, there's a look that people dress in a way and stand in a way. And I find a lot of rock and roll, that's sort of fading.
Yeah.
And it's not there anymore. You know, B.B. King is as much a look as a sound for me. And I see when you play live, I mean, most of your accolades come from being a guitar player, singer-songwriter, but the live show still has that rock and roll energy. How much of your career do you attribute to the live show?
Oh, probably like 3/4 of it, I would say. You know, I mean, that's what I've been doing since I was 18 years old, playing live shows and playing anywhere from 100 to 150 shows a year.
Right.
And yeah, I agree with. I mean, I think the grunge thing kind of killed dressing up for people, right?
Right.
Because I always thought, like, if you're going to be on stage, you know, you look dressed to impress.
Yeah.
You know, don't look like you just finished washing the car and you're on stage.
And people they're staring
still
at
don't
their
like
shoes.
that look. I can't get behind it.
I remember the grunge days. Everybody's like out of tune for one, and like I was just like, why am I trying to be so good? Like, and then they're staring at their shoes in these tattered sweaters, and I'm just like, I do not like these years whatsoever. Take 90 to 97 and just go, take it away.
Well, that's a little harsh, Rickford, but
yeah, well, grunge.
Jack, will you play us a song from the new album?
I'd love to. Yeah,
I'd love to hear it.
It's the first tune, and it's a party song.
All right.
It's called "Are You Ready?" Friday night, the weekend's come. Everybody, let's get it on. Drinking, dancing with your friend now. We don't want this night to end. Are you ready to boogie? Are you ready? Boogie woogie all night long. Everybody, are you down? We're gonna shake up Mississauga town. Shake it up and break it down, you know. Love and music make my world go round. Are you ready to boogie? Are you ready? Boogie woogie all night long. Lots of party, lots of fun. Come on, let's get it on. Life is short, sure is sweet, even sweeter when you're here with me. Yeah, yeah. Everybody, come on up. Let's get this party started and fill your cup. Let's go crazy all night long. I wanna get my boogie on. Are you ready to boogie? Are you ready? Boogie woogie all night long. Are you ready to boogie? Are you ready? We're gonna boogie woogie all night long. Yeah, yeah, boogie, boogie. We're gonna boogie, yeah, 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 yeah. Boogie woogie all night long. Yeah, yeah.
Sweet. What a great tune. And you know, I forget how good a guitar player you are sometimes, because I'm more of a song where I listen to the lyrics and I want to know the story. Man, that is some great guitar playing. Now, who is in your band, Jack? How are you presenting this music live?
My regular touring band is the band on the album. It's Al Duffy, has been with me for about 15 years. He's on bass. Nick Succi, a guy from Stony Creek, plays keyboards. Richard Thornton, who's been with me for about 12 years, plays saxophone. And for this album, we had a guy from Hamilton named Pete Grimmer play drums.
Very cool. And we've never done this before. We have a segment called what's it called again? Undercover of Night. It's been a long day. Undercover of Night, and you're going to come back with the band and do a more fleshed out version. You're going to do a trio?
We're going to do a trio.
Awesome. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Me too.
Thanks for sharing your time with us here today, and we'll see you in just a few hours.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Undercover of Night. That
Jack de Kaiser, man.
The legend, Jack de Kaiser. We'll be right back. Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. What a show it's been.
What a great show we had today.
Musically impressive. Two very different musicians, but both, wow, really great.
One very good song. Thought he was never going to walk again. What a great story. Jack de Kaiser, legend.
Legend. Really good. And now we have a very interesting guest for many reasons. His name is Stephen Dasko. He is a counselor for Ward 1 here in Mississauga, which has Port Credit in it. Now, we have of late been able to play some music outside.
Thanks to him.
They have extended the hours of which
he got done.
Music can be on the patio. We were told he was going to do everything he could.
He said that he was going to do something. He actually did it.
Came through and did it. So kudos to you, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome Stephen Dasko. Stephen, thanks for coming back. It's been a while since we've seen you. Let's catch up on new things that are happening. Now, I had a great time a few Thursdays, I think it was Friday. A few Fridays ago,
yeah.
I got to play something called Sunsets, Flowers, and Sounds. And this is an initiative over in the Lakeview property. Yep. And tell us a little bit about how that came about and how it had to evolve and what's going on there.
You know, it was quite interesting. And I've got to say, hats off again to what you guys are doing, because you're not just doing something very unique when it comes to highlighting a whole bunch of different facets of Port Credit and the different dynamics that are going on right now, but you're also an idea generating machine. You might not even know it. We talked last time about music and trying to get music back on track, and what we would do about a noise bylaw exemption and things like that. Got to work on that, and then shortly thereafter, being on the show, I was listening to a virtual, participating in a virtual chat with the Mississauga Arts Council, Mike Douglas, as many know, and also Mike Bacon, who is a friend to the show, I know. Mm-hmm. And they were talking, Mike got into talking about how to do a a physically distanced concert. Mm-hmm. How the logistics of that would work. And as he's talking, my mind is drifting, going, man, oh man, we've got something really interesting. There's 1 million sunflowers planted down in Lakeview at what is going to be
I think it's 2 million, he said, didn't he?
Well, they do $1 million a year.
Million?
They do $1 million a year. Yep.
Wow.
And so they started off with that last year. They did it again this year. And I thought, wow, what a cool canvas would that be to have live music, physically distanced, and all being properly done so that people are healthy and they get to enjoy what is quote unquote normal. And, and also, the most important thing is it gets some of our musicians put back to work.
Sure.
And and that was the impetus to it. Took it to what they call the Lakeview Partners. I know you had I think it was Fabio Mazzocco
we had Fabio
on last week, and pitched him with the idea, and his group, they liked it. They thought it was right in keeping with what they were looking to do out there, and they got to work right away. We did our first show, and Tom, you were kind enough to come out and play, and I got to say it was magic. Just going around talking to everybody, they were absolutely loving it. You could see the sun setting, radiating off the sunflowers.
It was very cool. You got the CN Tower in the background. You're in a field of sunflowers. It was you know, I mean, kudos to you guys for doing that. Explain to people, explain to me, us, how you are in charge of creating bylaws to a degree. Am I right? Is that part of what you do?
We can make. We're not in charge of. We can make some influence in terms of trying to bring things forward, and then inevitably it's getting staff to work with you, and then at the end of it all, it's getting the votes on council to agree and to work together on it.
And that, so even if something is only really affecting Ward 1 or it's a Ward 1 initiative, the other city councillors have to buy in to make it go?
Yeah, for example, with the patio program that we brought in, this was the temporary patio program for not just here, but it ended up being throughout the city. So that was the easier buy-in, was you bring that up for all over the city, whether you're in Malton, Meadowvale, Port Credit, Lakeview, all were given that ability to just put out some tables and chairs and, you know, try to make things work.
Right.
As best they could. And that was set to go, especially here, we had it till October 15th, and then I put in for an exemption where we would be able to extend it until November 15th if folks could make it work, knowing that it does definitely get colder,
sure,
but not knowing what the future is. And now we're looking at a second wave coming on, and if that's the case, trying to make it as healthy as possible for people if they want to continue to get out. Also have it healthy and available for folks like yourselves to get out and play, and at the same time keep a lot of the restaurants open and thriving as much as they can.
Now, on the safety issue, you sent me a note before the show saying that they've changed the speed limits on Lakeshore, which, if you're watching at home, you might say it's not a big deal. But it's a really big deal because there's all kinds of pedestrians at all the intersections going every which way, and cars rip through there like it's Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So what have you done there, and how did you make that happen?
So throughout the summer, if you're along the Lakeshore corridor, you definitely heard a lot of really loud tailpipes, people going very fast, especially when we got into a lockdown in March. People were just running stoplights. People were going a little too fast, and that's been a theme that I've heard. So down around Port Credit itself on the west side, Port Street, some might notice there's some lines there with slow down signs. The mayor and I introduced a pilot project called Quiet Streets for the St. Lawrence area there. That just got out of control. And then along Lakeshore, it's one where we're trying to be more pedestrian friendly. This is one where we want people out shopping and going to restaurants and spending time with their families.
And not being afraid to walk, they might get ran over.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great idea, and really, it's an extra 10 seconds of your life.
Yeah.
Just slow down.
Yeah.
We're trying to build a community
There's
here.
Lots of kids around here.
And
lots of families.
I think that's great. Now tell us about the Ward 1 Excellent Awards.
All right, the Ward 1 Excellence Awards was something I came up with last year. It was the first one that we did last year. And this was looking out and seeing a lot of local and small businesses that are out there trying to make things work. And it's tough. A lot of folks don't fully acknowledge all the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into running an operation as they do, whether it's a shop, you're a restaurant, a bar, a dry cleaner, what have you. There's a lot of sweat and effort that goes into it. I think that quite often people don't get recognized for that. And then there's also a lot of people that make our community work. They really make it hum. And they're the unsung heroes. They're the ones going out picking up garbage that people look at, don't pick it up. You'll get people doing that. You'll get people going out, building a community little pop-up library in a park and things like that.
And if someone knows a person like that, how do they get them nominated, or what's the process for getting someone up for an award like
Glad
this?
you asked. Actually, the best thing to do is my website, which is stephendasko.ca. It's stephendasko.ca. Go there and you'll find out how to nominate somebody. You'll see all of the different categories that are available, and nominations are open until October 15th. So I would really hope, especially in a time of COVID, when we could all use a little bit of a boost.
Right.
And this year, unfortunately, it's going to be virtual. We won't be able to do it like we did last year. Last year, we kind of did it up a little bit at the Cawthra Senior Center. We took a room there, and we had some marquees set up and things like that for everybody, just to recognize everybody for all the incredible work that they do, just to make our community what it is.
Right. And you brought up the seniors' residences. It looks like, again, COVID-19 has penetrated some of the seniors' residences, and we know what happened in the first wave.
Yeah.
How much, if anything, I know that's a provincial jurisdiction, but how much of anything are you able to do at a city council level to say, you know, you didn't do a good job the first time. You really didn't. Too many people were isolated. We all have friends and family that we couldn't see, and too many people died. So how do you or how do we influence that or promote change at that level?
I think a lot of what happened, people are learning from the past, unfortunately, and with a heavy toll. But keeping people's feet to the fire is really the most important thing, and you're absolutely right. It is under the provincial mandate. Part of what they ended up doing is they ended up having Trillium Health Partners under Michelle Demanuel, who is the CEO of Trillium Health Partners, take on what has been an absolute tragedy, something that should never have happened at any time, whether it's COVID or ever, and to make sure that this never happens again. So keeping keeping the light on to make sure that nobody forgets what happened. I don't think that that's possible, but even if that was the case, and also just to make sure that there's that extra level of transparency so that everybody's held to account.
Well, it's interesting because, when you started this job, the physical safety of thousands and thousands of people, you thought, well, that's not going to be really in my hands. I'm going to be doing more business things, more community things. And now suddenly it's on you to, and this is not being dramatic, to save lives and to implement programs that will save lives. So how do you, when you have in one ear maybe a business saying, you can't do that kind of stuff, I'm not going to be able to pay rent, I'm already on the edge, and then you have, in the other ear, people saying, look, the numbers are up, we have to crack down or we're going to be in full lockdown. How do you balance those two elements?
Quite frankly, a lot of it is having some really frank, candid conversations with business owners, and also with people at the city level and at the regional table as well. Because, as I think I mentioned before, this city is a corporation, and so quite often you hear the city being talked about as the corporation, and we are the corporation that's been struck underneath the province, and so we follow what the province dictates to us. We distill it, then we implement it, and so a lot of it is we're finding our way from the federal government, provincial government, all the way down, and it's having some of these kind of conversations.
What I don't want to see, and I don't think anybody else wants to see, is we do not want to see things shut down again. It's to me, it's catastrophic. It would take such an emotional toll on people, a health toll on people, mental health, and as well financial for everybody else. Whether you're a landlord, a shop owner, a restaurant owner, a performer, a server. I mean, there's just thousands and thousands of lives in different facets that all become in jeopardy overnight.
Sure. I mean, there are all of these unintended consequences
Yes.
that happen when you implement rigid rules on a large community. I was a big fan when they said, look, numbers are escalating back up at a rapid pace. We have to stop serving in restaurants at 11 and have them closed at 12. And I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. And then I was out in Port Credit at 11:15, and I noticed all of these people are now on the streets.
Yes.
Like, what do we do now? Do you remember that? Where everyone's just and they're all gathering and mingling. And I thought, is it really better to have all of these people, with drinks in them, out mingling, or is it better to have them in a licensed establishment where there's regular inspections?
Environment.
And exactly, it's a controlled environment. So, I mean, I don't envy the position of trying to write these laws.
That's a tough one. The province came down with that, and I completely get and understand why they did that. But it's not without its challenges, for sure. And so what works better? Do you stop serving somebody at 11 o'clock, and then instead of midnight when you put people out, do you wait till 1? Does that give a little bit more of a graduated time to get people to leave differently? Or do you take a different tact? I think we have one weekend now under our belt that way. I think we're going to find out pretty soon what direction it ends up taking. But I got to say, the other thing too is, when we say it's that old line, we're all in it together. It's people that are participating. If you're coming out to a bar or a restaurant, you've got to think a little bit and say, okay, well, what's being responsible here? When I go outside, I might not believe in it. Some people don't, but at the end of it all, put your mask on. If it's going to take us, an extra week, an extra month, or an extra year shorter to get back to where we can all come back to normal, then you know what? It's worth it.
Right. And just before we let you go, Stephen, first of all, is there anything we missed? And second of all, so what's your message going forward now that you would want to tell the community?
I just want to let the community know that, we're not out of the woods yet by any stretch. You can see that there is a second wave rearing its ugly head, but it's time for us to be vigilant, to do what we have to do. But at the same time, I think we've learned as well from the past, and just follow all the right protocols. It doesn't mean that you have to have yourself completely holed up. It's you can get out, do things, just follow what people are telling you to do, and you should be just fine. And to that point, I got to say, one of the exercises, knowing that people want to get out, and as well we want to get back to a little bit of normalcy, is why I came up with and pitched to the BIA Classic Car Thursdays, which we had throughout the whole month
it was a great event.
of August, and it was great. And the BIA did an incredible job of execution, and they took what was in their entertainment budget, which wasn't being touched because of COVID, and they put it to work by employing a whole bunch of artists to also play all along the east side of Port Credit.
Yeah, a lot of our friends did that. And
turn left.
Turn left.
Jake.
And Jake. And you know what? Every dollar that's coming into a musician right now, there's not going to be street festivals in February.
You got to tack and recognize that it's not going to be the norm, as you're mentioning, but what can we do?
Right.
And Jake Pedler, which is a great friend of the show, super guy, thinks on his feet, and very dedicated. He's been great to work with, and we've got a real gem as well, Beatrice Laidlow. She is the GM of the BIA. Unfortunately, she's having a bit of a health issue right now, so we're all rooting for her, and everybody out there, if you could, please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. She is a real gem to Port Credit. She's irreplaceable, and not only that, but hopefully, I'm not speaking out of turn, but I have spoken with I call her Queen Bee. I think a lot of us that know her call her Queen Bee. She's definitely earned that title from volunteer right up to running the place. What we have done is, and I'm getting it through council, a little bit fast-tracked, is to recognize all of her hard work and her continued hard work to come. Is at the lighthouse, there's the platform where right now there's the large Muskoka chair sits. Right. And I'm having it named the Queen Bee Lookout to commemorate all of the great work that she has done and will continue to do for
Well,
us.
I think that's a beautiful sentiment, and she has an open invitation for the show whenever she can make it. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming in and letting us know what's going on, and I think it's important that we have you on as a regular guest because we're getting questions and it's nice to get real answers here from a real person and not on a website or something. So thank you very much for coming in.
I'm happy to be on. You guys keep up the great work, and I think you've got something that's really incredible, unique, and really valuable for the community.
Well, thank you very much.
Keep doing what you guys are doing.
Appreciate that, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Jack DeKaiser, and we're on Undercover of the Night. This is Al Duffy on the bass, Rick Donaldson on the drums. We're going to play Let's Do It from our tribute album. Every time I see you, baby, when you call my name, something happens to me. Well, it's hard to explain. Every time you're near me, baby, like a moth to flame, something happens to me. Well, it's hard to explain. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's fall in love again. Every time you kiss me, baby, when you hold me tight, girl, I can't resist you. In the middle of the night, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's fall in love again, yeah. Come on, let's do it. Do it. Let's fall in love again. Every time I kiss you, baby, when you hold me tight, girl, I can't resist you. In the middle of the night, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's fall in love again. Come on, let's do it, baby. Yeah, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's fall in love again, yeah. Yeah, can we do it? Can we do it? Can we? Yeah.
Well, Rick, it's that time of the show where I believe Carson's going to cook something. Is he? I believe he is. There's a whiff.
Will it be delicious? Only time will tell. And I think he's cooking seafood, and I hope it doesn't smell. Pulling mussels from a shell. Pulling mussels from a shell. Oh, I hope it doesn't smell.
Is that a mussel?
No.
Hey guys, thank you for that fantastic introduction once again. This is Carson Freeman, Cooking with Carson, and today we're making a very simple dish. This is mussels. Simple but delicious, and you're going to want to try this at home. So what we're doing is we're doing a classic way of cooking mussels, often called drunken mussels because it's often used with white wine. You can even use different types of alcohol, which evaporates. This is not an alcoholic dish, but what it does is it absorbs into the mussels. It gives them so much flavor. And really, although I'm adding a few ingredients here, most of the flavors you're going to be tasting are coming from that briny, delicious mussel. Okay, so first off, I'm going to go over to the stovetop and I'm going to cook off some shallots. I'm going to cook them in butter. You want to make sure your pan is not too hot or it's going to burn the butter. And I'll put the shallots in here. Turn up my heat a little bit, and I'm just gonna cook them around in the same serving spoon that I'm gonna use to serve up these mussels. Now, when you're cooking the mussels, you're gonna use some type of onion or garlic just for your flavor base. And what I did was I went with shallots because shallots is a mixture between a red onion and garlic. It's a bit of a hybrid, so it's gonna make a really nice flavor. Also, there's some beautiful purple color. I hate it when people call them red onions because they're purple onions, and that's just such a nice color that you're seeing there. Okay, so just to help these out, I'm gonna give them a little bit of pepper. Most dishes we're always adding salt, but this one we're not going to because there's natural salt from the ocean. And you can use salted butter. Most recipes call for unsalted butter, but most homes actually have salted butter in them. So if you have that, that's fine, but I wouldn't add any salt. So I'm just cooking these down for a little bit. There's so many different takes on mussel recipes. What I like to do is start off with a basic one that you could do by yourself, and then later you can add all sorts of different flavors. Like you can do heavy creams, and give it some Asian flavors. Some nice lemongrass is really nice with mussels. What I do have for a flavor that's often used is some lemon zest. And what I did was I zested my lemon into nice little strips. I'm gonna add those right away. And in the rind of the lemon, the oils will be released, and that gives that really nice lemony flavor. So stir this around just a little bit. And turn my heat up just a little. And I'm gonna deglaze the pan with some white wine. So this is some nice dry white wine. And I'm gonna cook this until the alcohol kind of burns off. I'm gonna bring that to a boil. And to that, just for a little bit more umami, some nice flavor, I'm gonna add some homemade chicken stock. Just a little bit. And we're gonna bring this to a boil. And once that boils, we're just gonna add the mussels and let them release their juices and kind of plump up and create that beautiful briny, brothy flavor. Okay, our broth has come to a boil. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my cleaned mussels. These, once again, these are fresh PEI mussels. Just add them to this broth. I'm going to put the lid on right away, seal it nice and tightly for about 2 minutes. Then I'm going to stir them around a little bit and wait another 2 to 3 minutes. It only takes about 5 minutes for these to plump up, and sometimes even less depending on your mussels. But they're going to get that really beautiful flavor, and they're going to create a delicious broth. Okay, guys, it's been 5 minutes. The mussels are perfect. So let's plate them up. I'm just going to move them over here and get myself a nice serving bowl. remember, I'm gonna move this out of the way here. Remember, when you're eating these, you wanna make sure that if any of the muscles have not opened up, that you're gonna discard them. Also, forgot to mention, before you cook them, if there's any with broken shells, just don't use those at all either, okay? There'll be plenty of muscles left over for you to cook. So let's try these out. They look absolutely fantastic. And because I'm using a slotted spoon, I'm gonna pour some of the broth because we don't wanna miss any of that. It's so fragrant and fantastic. And I'm gonna take some of this crusty bread. I'm just gonna use that to help sop up some of the broth here. And let's dig in. So, yeah, nice, beautiful PEI mussel. Kind of having a hard time getting it out of there with a spoon. But I did learn this trick from one of my friends in Nova Scotia. The shell of the mussel is actually the perfect utensil for digging in and pulling those out. And that's how a lot of people in the Maritimes eat mussels. This recipe is absolutely fantastic, drunken mussels. Try this at home, you won't be disappointed. Back to you, Tom and Rick.
Les!